Do you know that feeling? You're sitting in a chair, sipping your coffee, looking at the counter. For a moment, you pause and say, "I'm going to wash those dishes. I'll get up in a bit and handle it." At first, that decision feels peaceful, but right at that moment, a roommate, a mother, or a spouse walks into the room and says, "Hey, aren't you going to wash the dishes?" And in that moment, something physical happens inside you. You would rather die than touch those dishes. The peace you had just a second ago didn't simply disappear. It was destroyed by someone else. You're not lazy. You had just decided to do it. But now that it has become an order, this simple thing you had to do stops feeling like a task and starts feeling like a threat. And the strange part is, nothing about the task is different. The sink is the same. The dishes are the same. The sponge is the same. You are the same. The only thing that changed was who made the decision. At first, this decision belonged to you. Then, it turned into someone else's instruction. And for some people, this tiny-looking difference is big enough for the entire body to react and resist. When you say it out loud, it sounds like something insignificant. But this reaction is not ordinary. It is one of the most common battles in human psychology. The battle to feel like the author of your own actions. Maybe you actually do great work at your job until a senior manager gets involved. Then suddenly, the project you cared about so much, the one you even lost sleep over when necessary, starts becoming unbearable. Maybe you refuse to watch a show you were excited about just because too many people said you absolutely have to watch it. Maybe after a very tiring day, you had decided to go to sleep early. But if someone comes along and says, "You need to sleep earlier," then that adolescent, angry part inside you wants to stay awake until morning, just to prove that you belong to no one. This is not always laziness. It is not always remaining childish either. And this is not actually arrogance. Sometimes, this is the mind defending independence so aggressively that it causes you to give up on the things you secretly wanted in the first place. In psychology, Jack Brame called this psychological reactance, a motivational state that emerges when a person feels that their freedom is under threat. When the brain feels that an option has been taken away, it resists in order to reclaim that option. And the threat does not have to be dramatic. Your mother saying, "Clean your room," is enough. Your manager saying, "Not like that, do it this way," is enough. Your spouse saying, "You need to calm down," is enough. A friend saying, "You've gained a lot of weight, it's time to lose weight," is enough. Even if the advice sounds right, something inside you may reject it, because if you follow it, you feel like you have surrendered. And this is a trap. The advice may be something that moves you forward. The advice may be completely reasonable. The person may even probably be right. But if the action has started to feel like it no longer belongs to you, your nervous system may interpret acceptance as a kind of death, the death of your will. For this reason, autonomy is not just a nice extra in human psychology. Desai and Ryan's self-determination theory defines autonomy as one of the core psychological needs behind motivation. People do not only want to do things, they also want to feel that the things they do belong to them. That is why being warned by others to do the right thing can feel worse than choosing the wrong thing by your own will. Because at least the order was not given by someone else. This is where the first type appears, the freedom fighter. This person's only problem is not being controlled. They believe their entire life is under control. A suggestion feels like pressure. A reminder feels like surveillance. A rule feels like someone reaching into the private room where their choices are made. They may know that the advice being given is useful. They may know that it would add positive value to their life. They may even completely agree with it. But if it came from someone else, that thing no longer feels clean and right. Eat healthier. Now they are going to order fast food. Don't look at your phone. Now every notification must be checked. Apply for that job. Now that job is just something done to make someone else happy. The short-term reward is powerful. Rejecting gives them back a sense of ownership. For a few seconds, they feel like their spine has returned. But the long-term cost is heavy. Aggressive reactions and unhealthy relationships. They stop asking, "What do I want?" and start asking, "What should I do to show that I don't need anyone's opinion?" That is not actually freedom. That is still being controlled, just reversed. Then there are those who search for logic in every word, every piece of advice, or every rule. This person involuntarily rejects authority. They hate unexplained authority. If you say, "Jump," they do not say, "How high?" They ask, "Why are we jumping? What problem does jumping solve? How can you be so sure this is the best option?" To a traditional boss, this looks like arrogance. To the logic seeker, blind obedience is nothing but modern slavery. The moment they see a message that says, "Just do it this way," you can almost see their nervous system wanting to tear everything around them apart. Not because they hate work, but because this vague authority makes them feel humiliated. Being managed like a robot or a slave is not for them. They need a guide. What is being asked must be explained. They expect proof that what is being demanded is not just the ego of someone who happens to carry a simple title. These people can be incredibly valuable. They catch mistakes. They discover what is broken in the system. They reject the idea that rank equals competence. But there is something they do not know. They can also become trapped in their own need for justification. Some instructions are just simple. They are not an existential debate. Sometimes an email just needs to be sent. Sometimes that chair just needs to be moved somewhere else. Some things may not be stupid just because someone else asked for them. The strength of the logic seeker comes from their instincts. The dangerous side of this is that for them, every request is a courtroom. Then there is the demand avoider. This is not as simple as the stubbornness we all show in daily life. For some people, a demand does not create a positive effect. On the contrary, it creates meaningless tension and pressure on them. And pressure does not feel energizing. It is perceived like a threat. This can appear even in the things they deeply wish for. They create a to-do list that includes: write something, make that call you have wanted to make for 15 days, walk every day, learn an instrument. And the moment those things become tasks, the motivation inside them suddenly disappears. The activities are actually the same. Only the frame has changed. It was, "I want to." Now it is, "I have to." And for some nervous systems, "I have to" triggers shutdown. In some neurodiversity discussions, extreme demand avoidance is sometimes addressed through a controversial concept called PDA, meaning pathological demand avoidance. This is not a globally proven diagnosis, and this is not actually about labeling people either. But the pattern matters. For some people, the demand created, even if it comes from themselves, feels like such heavy pressure that the desired actions start to feel impossible to perform. For someone else, this may seem absurd. Why would someone avoid something they chose and enjoyed? How can someone postpone their own hobby? Why would someone feel pressure inside a plan they created? But internally, the problem is not about the plan, the hobby, or the task. The problem is the feeling that psychological freedom has disappeared. The demand avoider is not always rejecting the action. They are rejecting the boundaries formed around the action. That is why the solution is usually not more pressure. More pressure often does nothing except thicken the wall forming inside. The only way out of pressure is usually to give choice back to the body, to frame the task in a way that makes the nervous system think it is something it actually wants, enough for it to stop evaluating it as a threat. Not, I absolutely have to reply to this email. More like, I can open it and just see what it says. Not, I need to clean the room down to its deepest corners. More like, I can collect the cups on the table. This is not productivity fraud, because sometimes the brain wants proof that desire is still there. Lastly, there is the counterdependent. This is the person whose independence is not just a personality trait, it is protection. The ones who say, I'll handle it myself, and genuinely believe they can. They may seem strong, capable, disciplined, even intimidatingly self-sufficient. But that freedom may be hiding something from the past. Maybe being helped used to be connected to a feeling of deficiency. Maybe guidance did not only mean leadership, but control. Maybe depending on someone involved disappointment. Maybe, once, obeying ideas brought humiliation. So now, whenever you want to help, they refuse to listen. They hear, you are not competent enough. They hear, you don't know this, you can't do it alone. They hear, step aside, the decision is mine. Even politely recommending food at a restaurant can trigger a wound. That is why some people refuse help, even in moments when they desperately need it. Carrying the burden alone does not feel better than receiving guidance, but someone's help feels more dangerous than being alone. They would rather be exhausted and in control than supported and open. This is the hidden cost of counterdependence. It protects independence, but it also pushes you away from love. Under all these reactions, there is actually a deeper system. The freedom fighter wants ownership. The logic seeker wants respect. The demand avoider wants boundaries. The counterdependent wants safety. Different contact points, the same wound. What you are afraid of is not always the task itself. The fear is how far the task moves away from what it originally was when someone else touches it. A dish becomes obedience. An email becomes surveillance. Advice becomes judgment. A reminder proves that you're not trusted. A simple request turns into a battle over who will run your life. This is where the danger begins, because resistance looks like independence before it turns into a cage. At first, when you say no, an inner peace arrives. You feel strong. You feel uncontaminated. You feel like all your decisions belong to you. If you are not careful, your whole life starts becoming nothing but a reaction against other people. You are not choosing what you want. You are choosing what proves something. You are not asking, is this actually good for me? You are asking, will I look controlled if I do this? And the thing you call independence slowly becomes a prison inside you. You are still not free. Because what determines whether you do something or not is not whether you want that thing, but whether someone else wants it. Things have simply reversed against your original goal. So the question is not, why do I hate being told what to do? The better question is this: what happens to me if I feel like I am obeying? Do I shrink? Do I lose myself? Will they think I belong to them? Will I turn into a soldier who only takes orders? When I am wrong, will I have to tell them, you were right? Will I lose that special feeling that my life belongs to me? This is the real story. Not the dishes, not the email, not the movie, not the bedtime. The real conflict is the control complex. Who gets to tell you how to do it? Know this. The goal is not to become someone who accepts every instruction without questioning it. That is not adulthood. That is just acceptance with better manners. The goal is to become free enough to understand that someone else's desire cannot actually steal the action from you. Free enough to say yes without feeling imprisoned. Free enough to refuse without burning everything down. Free enough to understand that even if someone else said it when you were already going to do it, that thing was actually already yours. Maybe the real danger is not someone telling you what to do. Maybe the real danger is limiting your whole life to opposing what other people want.